Welcome to Latte with a Lawyer, a podcast dedicated to bringing you the stories of some of America's most successful lawyers, figuring out what makes them tick, how they creatively solve problems, and how others aspiring to be them can follow in their footsteps.
Okay, good morning, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Latte with a Lawyer. Today we've got an interesting guest here from the state of South Carolina, Clarke Newton with Bluestein Attorneys. Good morning.
Good morning. How you doing?
Good. Excellent. You still drinking coffee?
I am. I'm having my second cup in a very marketing ploy here.
Excellent.
Yep. So
that's your morning juice?
Yeah. I usually have a cup. My wife will make a pot, and then I'll come and have one cup. We've got a Keurig machine. The cup I have at home usually ends up being a lot better than the one here. You know, those Keurigs it's hit or miss.
Yeah, they're not very good.
Nah,
are you in your office now? You go to
Yeah. So I'm in the office. We have luckily through the pandemic been able to stay in the office mainly because we're just so spread out in like infrastructure wise. If I walk out of my office, I'm not near anybody.
Right.
So when we shut down in March of 2020, we could still come into a physical office, which was very helpful.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, it also depends on what state you live in too, like your attitude towards it, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, we were very cautious. I mean, we shut it. We were encouraging and kept most of the support staff home.
Okay.
And we set up everything remote for them. We would, again, because the way it spread out, we could have a team member come up and handle mail situations and get things, organized in the office. And there'd usually be at least a lawyer or two here as well. But no, we changed the infrastructure of the office. We put a lot of automated, when we first thought everything was a surface issue, we added all these automated hygiene things. We recirculated the air in here put all those filters and stuff. No, South Carolina might not have taken it as seriously as other states, but we did.
But you did, yeah. Where are you? Are you in Columbia? Where are you located?
Yeah, we're in Columbia. The city of Columbia took it very seriously. We had a lot of mask mandates for most public settings, which was nice. I mean, it made you feel a little bit more comfortable.
Yeah. Well, you're in a college town, right? Obviously, big college.
Yeah. And the city tends to elect more Democrat progressives.
Yeah.
Obviously, the state is red, but the city is
all states are like that, right? It doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So it's interesting. But all right, so tell me about what you do. What kind of work you do?
So it's primarily personal injury work. I'll tell you, I was a public defender for about 4 years when I started, and it's what I really wanted to do really since I was in high school. I don't know, I had some bug in my head to, help people. I had grown up a military brat.
Okay.
And lived in a lot of diverse locations and with diverse populations. And I really appreciated the where I was put in life, and I had the ability, and I wanted to, and I also I enjoyed public speaking. I knew that being even from high school, because I had family members that were public defenders, I knew you could get into the courtroom quicker too. So it was kind of there was a selfish part to it too, but mainly was I just felt like I could help.
Yeah, we lost your screen a little bit.
Sorry about that.
That's
I don't know for some. And so I did that. I got lucky to get out. I also took advantage knowing that I was going to be a public defender to have a lot more fun in law school than maybe some other people did. So I did that for 4 years. Got some trial experience, got to be on my feet every day in front of a judge, and then came to Bluestein in 2013. So I've been here 9 years and do mostly personal injury. I will still do criminal defense, but I have found the stretch of being a successful full-time criminal defense attorney does not work being a civil attorney. particularly in the state of South Carolina, where we still, unfortunately, our criminal cases are called by the solicitor, the prosecutor. And so the court does not schedule. And so it's very volatile to schedule your practice around that. So I still take criminal cases, and, there's some that you can just do without having to, you have the infrastructure and the knowledge on how to handle them without having to put in the sweat, the sweat that you have to do on some of these and investigations and things like that. I just don't have. So mostly personal injury. And that is a wide array. It's not focused on just car wrecks. We do products liability. We do a lot of medical malpractice cases, and slip and falls. And then we do a lot of insurance coverage disputes. So we end up with a lot of DJ stuff. Doesn't
everything come down to insurance coverage?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and I'm terrible at doing it, but the stools that the stool you're looking for is, damages, liability, and coverage. And as long as you've got, coverage on the legs of that stool, you can kind of make everything work. Bad liability and bad damages, it doesn't really matter as long as you got some coverage. You can figure something out.
Got it. Isn't there a bit of a conflict to do defense and plaintiff work or not?
A conflict for criminal defense?
Well, just for you. I mean, usually it's one or the other, right?
Well, in South Carolina, you will find, particularly like solo practitioners, will do criminal defense, plaintiff's work, divorces, as that is just an inherently catch-all.
Yeah, that makes sense, right? Sure.
It doesn't. I tend to find the clientele across the board, we get a lot of when I first came here, I did a lot more criminal defense because we had a law partner that was solely criminal defense here. Okay. And so I got a lot of runoff cases from him, and you get a lot of referrals out of that on your personal injury side. So no, not necessarily. I think they go hand in hand. I understand, you're on the opposite side of the burden, so to speak. But I think the skill sets blend kind of nicely when you're in private practice. To be able to handle those things. Because, I don't know how many times I've had civil cases where someone's either had a criminal issue pop up or a family member pop up, and you're kind of there to help guide them with that too. So.
Yeah. Well, I would imagine having experience on both sides helps you understand the other side better, right?
Oh yeah, sure. And particularly putting up a case, it was fascinating spending 100% on the defense side as a public defender, understanding the burden, which was a lot higher. Actually, I don't know if you can see it. I still keep up I've got this girl, I'll take it down. I keep this up. I don't know. It's just a great little thing. It's driving under the influence, the burden of proof. And it's all of the levels, which I know is not showing up well, but essentially like until you get proven intoxicated beyond a reasonable doubt, that's guilty. Everything else, possibly sober, perhaps sober. And I keep that up just as a nice little reminder of the burden the state has. This in the civil side, it's less, but it's fascinating trying 30 some odd cases in 4 years as a public defender, knowing what that burden had to be and how to be articulated to then flip and have a burden for a jury, knowing the lower threshold, but knowing in their mind they're still kind of thinking about, a jury just wants to do the right thing.
Right.
How do you tell them that is the difficult thing? And burden, the burden of proof to us, when we get down in the weeds, we know the difference between preponderance of the evidence and beyond a reasonable doubt. Jury has no idea. So how do you explain that to them so that they can do the right thing? Because at the end of the day, that's all a jury wants to do is just do the right thing, no matter what side it is.
Yeah.
So it's a good skill set to have, to know both sides.
I would imagine so. I was I had both. I was in the real estate business, and I was an asset manager, meaning I I ran and managed the institutional assets, and then I was a lender. So I knew
Oh,
both sides of it, right?
right. Yeah,
But
absolutely.
I knew the lender didn't want to own the real estate, so I could make a deal with them to get it off their
Right.
books.
Yeah,
So anyway, there's something to be said for knowing both sides. But
sure.
so how'd you become a lawyer? How did that happen?
So, like I was saying, I was living in Japan. As I said, I was a military brat. I lived in Japan in high school. And my parents were like, you can't live, you got to go work in the summer. My dad was a military guy. You got to go work in the summer. A little hard to get jobs in Japan. They had a little program for kids that could go work like a admin job on the base somewhere. So my parents shipped me to Columbia, South Carolina, to live with my uncle John, who was at the time in private practice, but had been a public defender. And he was doing criminal defense work in private practice, and he was in a law firm that did personal injury work. So I got shipped out here in the summer times in high school and was their runner, just everything.
There you go.
And I got the hook. And like I said, I really wanted to help people. I really wanted to be in the courtroom. I enjoyed public speaking. So it was just kind of, I followed that. I followed him. I got to be buddies with his public defender buddies from when he was there, and stayed in contact. And his close personal friend, and when like a guy I considered, an uncle and a family member, was the chief public defender in Richland County.
Got it.
And so when I applied for law school, got here, linked back up with him. I clerked and worked there all throughout law school at the PPD's office, and was fortunate that he saw that I was interested and wanted to do it. And he said, you get done with law school and you can work here. So
got it.
That's how it worked. So, I just luckily had I had the grace of being able to have that in my family. I never took that for granted, that I had those connections, and took advantage of that.
And it was a fit, obviously. It was a fit.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to, that's what I wanted to do. It's a selfless, not selfless isn't the right word. Being a public defender, you're on the onslaught of everything. Your clients don't think you're a real lawyer. The public doesn't think you're a real lawyer. The state takes advantage of that in the way they treat you. And you're sitting there defending the Constitution every day. And so, you build some thick skin doing that.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Yeah, it was, I burned out, as most people do. And, at the time there was an expectation, give me 2 years is what Doug, the PD would ask of you. Just give me 2 years. I gave him almost 4. And that was the toughest day to say, man, I'm done. I can't, I've given it all. There's monetary reasons with that as well, but really it's just a burnout thing. And this ended up being a good fit at the time, and it stayed a good fit at Bluestein, because they wanted to continue some of their criminal defense work, but they needed someone with trial experience to jump in and help with their personal injury practice.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So you like the trial part. That's what you like to do.
Yeah, I do. I am a an adjunct professor at the University of South Carolina teaching trial ad.
Yeah, I saw that background. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, so I got paired up. There's a lawyer here in town, Dick Willis, who's unbelievable. He's a civil defense attorney, doing products defense for a long time, and he had been the adjunct over there doing that. And we got paired up at a CLE, and we just hit it off, and he needed someone to help him with class. And 7 years later, we've been teaching this class together, and it's a blast.
Oh, nice.
So, continuing to practice the craft, because, you never master this thing. You just got to keep doing it. So the fact that I get to watch and see my future colleagues that are in school learning the craft, and I can tell them some things I've learned, and I can steal some things from kids that are, going to be better than I am. it's awesome. So I try to stay involved as much as possible, particularly because I don't know how it is where you are, but it's tough to get into court right now. Not just to COVID, just trials don't happen.
Right.
Really,
Most things don't go to trial, right? I mean,
right. Yeah. So it's hard to keep that craft up. I went and watched a trial in another county this week. There was some common threads to a trial I have coming up potentially in November that I wanted to watch, but really I just was like, man, I had a couple of open days in the office. I was like, I need to just go watch a trial, take some notes. Maybe I'll see something done. It's the same courthouse. I've never been in that courthouse. Let me see how that thing's arranged so I can know where I want to stand and where I want to advocate from, and all those little things, because they're so few and far between, So.
yeah, interesting. So you're not part of some of these other like trial lawyers university, trial college? You don't?
I have not. Like I said, I've taught at the school now for about 7 years. I mean, I'm a part of our plaintiffs bar Association of Justice, the South Carolina one, and the national one as well. But I have not been involved in any of the trial colleges. I've participated in some young lawyer seminars that have kind of like crash course. Here's a case. Let's talk about it. But nothing past that. No.
Got it. Yeah. Because we've spent a good bit of time with them, and that's the whole theme. They're constantly trying to like learn and share ideas with each other.
Sure.
So it seemed like that may be of interest, but you're kind of doing it in the classroom anyway.
Yeah, the South Carolina has a very robust young lawyers division. For the size that we have a large percentage that are involved in it. And so I was involved in that until I'm no longer a young lawyer. I've aged out, unfortunately. But I was involved in that a lot. And
what's the age that says you're not young?
The age was, I think it's like 8 years of practice or 40, whatever.
Oh, I see.
There was some sort of thing. And so I aged out years wise. And during that time, I was heavily involved with that and had an opportunity to work with and develop with a lot of young lawyers in the state. So I laid the groundwork for that kind of continuation of talking with colleagues and developing, strategies and techniques. You continue that stuff, again, this is a really small bar in South Carolina. And so I've got a handful of email and text groups with colleagues on both sides of the aisle. And we spend a lot of time talking about different, hey, what do you think about this strategy? What do you think about this? So we do a good job of that because we're close. We all went to law school together for the most part. State's tiny anyways, everybody.
Yeah.
And so that continues on as well.
Oh, good. I see your influencers. You had mentioned Keith Mitnick, which we know because we do work with Morgan and Morgan, and Ellie Mistel.
Eli Mistel. Eli Mistel is he writes for the Nation, and he used to be the Above the Law blog editor. And he is just, I follow him on Twitter and I read his Nation articles when I can. I just think he's a brilliant legal mind. He's extreme. I mean, he is an advocate for progressive minority movements. I really enjoy him, and he does a really good job. Like right now, he kind of synthesizes all the SCOTUS opinions that are being dropped this week. Past couple of weeks.
Yep.
I just kind of align with his political ideologies. I think he's a great writer. He's really funny too. So he's a good Twitter follow for me.
I'll have to follow him.
Huh?
I'll have to follow him.
Yeah, check him out. But he's a great writer, so I enjoy reading his pieces when he puts them out. And Keith I get the brush strokes. I've got his book. He's just that guy. That guy's on the pulse of how we should be doing these trials. So I just enjoy reading him, and I'm just thankful that he's kind enough to share all that stuff, because that's easily be something that you would hoard for money, and has no problems just giving it out for free because he wants everybody to be better, which is awesome.
Yeah, and I've noticed that again. That's it's very collegial. People share, even though you're very competitive people, but there's a lot of collaboration.
And the plaintiffs, I have a lot of dear friends on the other side in the civil defense world, but it seems more competitive because there are actual clients that you can go after, because you can go after Geico and Allstate. Plaintiff's bar can't go after John Smith expecting him to get into a horrible tractor trailer case, right?
Right.
So the plaintiff's bar is a lot more collaborative, in my opinion. I don't know that side.
It seems like it is, yeah.
Yeah, it's just everyone wants, because the rising tide. I mean, if we keep licking and getting good verdicts, we're going to get better settlement offers. It helps everybody,
right?
And we're not having to fight over individual clients. We might be fighting over individual, depending on how your advertising is, individual populations and thoughts, and having them in your head. So when something does happen, it comes. There is that competitive, but it's not the same on the that insurance defense side. Those rates are low now too, and they are just fighting tooth and nail. So they don't. It just doesn't seem like they have the incentive to share any sort of with their colleagues. But I could be wrong. I've never been in their conference. So
interesting.
Yeah.
So how do you prepare for? I mean, you follow guys like Keith Mitnick, et cetera. But so how do you prepare so you increase your probability of winning and you get the best outcome you want?
There's no substitute for hard work. Particularly on the personal injury side, there's no substitute for understanding the medicine, which I was not prepared for that when I came here. I was prepared for everything else coming on this side from the criminal defense world. I was not prepared for the medicine and the mastery of the medicine, because you can hire as many experts as you want, but you're the one that has to tell the jury what happened.
Right.
You're the person that has to explain it. And if you cannot break that down Mr. Wizard style and explain it to them in a way that they can understand it, knowing that all they really have to have is a 6th grade education to be on there, right? You have to know that stuff. You have to understand it. And it is still a daily struggle to know it, because I want to be good at it, so you got to keep at it. So hard work you have to put in the time and read the medical records on these cases. So you prepare that way, and hopefully you can develop institutional knowledge to help you on the next case with that. You need to be pretty good and have a checklist together for every case that make sure you're not missing the steps of the things, because time is of the essence in a lot of these cases. The evidence can ameliorate, it can wane. If you don't call that eyewitness that saw the wreck and get a good statement, for a fresh statement, you call them 2 years later, and it's going to be hit or miss on what they remember and how they remember it and how it made them feel, which is always that's the most important question that you can ask any witness. How did it make you feel? So you got to be prepped on the front end. So we work really hard on that. I've got 2 of the best paralegals, hands down. I will put them up against anybody. They're awesome. And they work well together. They both have different strengths for each other. So we, for the most part, collaborate. Me and my law partner, Allison Sullivan, who do the personal injury work, we both share the same paralegals. They, for the most part, are assigned a case, but they work together on the case, making sure we've got the records and bills, make sure we've got any potential, witness statements or just information that we need to get ready for a case. I try the best I can when a case comes in to think of what it would be the theme of a trial with this case. And I try to answer 3 questions And this is what we do in our trial advocacy class. And so I try to do this so that I can teach, do what I'm teaching. But at the end of a case, if you won the case and you called me and said, hey, Clarke, how did you win? Why did you win that case? I want to be able to tell you why I won the case. And it could be as simple as because the guy rear-ended the other guy, right? It might just be as simple as that. The guy rear-ended the other guy and he hit his head on the steering wheel, his head busted open, right? Yeah. It doesn't have to be complex. It could just be that. What was the strongest piece of evidence I have, and what is the weakest piece of evidence I have? And that obviously is going to evolve throughout the case, but I need to be thinking of those three things. Why did I win? What's the strongest piece of evidence, and what's the weakest? And I think if you have that in your head throughout the course of the case, even if the case settles pre-suit, if you're prepared for that and have the answer to that question, you can go with the flow of however the case is going to go. If Geico says, get lost, I'm not going to pay any money, you got to file suit, you're ready. So.
Yep. Excellent. Do you use focus groups, mock trials? Do you do those kind of things too?
Sure. So bigger cases, obviously, we definitely do a cost benefit analysis of whether a focus group is going to be worth the time and money. And
what's the threshold? What's the threshold that you would use one?
The threshold would be, first, is this actually going to go to trial, right? Is trial what is in your client's best interest? And that could be because whether they know it's in their best interest or not. A lot of people think they need to go to trial, and then you sit down and talk to them, and you're like, you have no business going in this courtroom. This is not going to work out well for you. So you do that. Is this case one that we need to know the value for trial? So you do that. Threshold of like monetary amount.
Yeah.
That doesn't really factor in too much. Obviously, just a baseline, anything over six figures, you need to be considering it. I'm sure, but I wouldn't not do it in a case that I thought maybe would be, high, between $75,000 and $90,000 if it brought value to the case. And you can do, we have done focus groups with a professional group that you pay a lot of money for, and they just set it all up to the end of the spectrum, which is, and we used to do this when my criminal law partner was here, friends of friends order pizza and come shoot the shit in the conference room and ask questions and put up an opening and things like that. There's a spectrum of focus groups that you can do depending on the budget. So it's really just a cost benefit analysis. We've worked with another lawyer in town and kind of split costs and did like a couple of them at the same time with the same group. So there's a bunch of different ways to do it. And what you're looking for is non-lawyers, non-connected to you, peers in the community. You can figure that out. Call a temp agency and ask for 12 people to come and hang out for 5 hours. That doesn't cost a whole lot of money. So there's different ways to do it. But the threshold really is just like, is this case going to get any more value out of this? Do we really need to know this? And a lot of that, our products cases, we do that pretty much every time. Med mals, we would want to do that. Tricky premise cases are good to do a focus group, just really because, in South Carolina, premise liability law does not favor the plaintiff. And we're a personal responsibility state, we're a red state. So, there's some tricky premise cases that you want to run by and make sure people aren't going to be like, well, how the hell did they didn't see that? You want to hear that. So.
Got it.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, good. This is good stuff. What just sort of final words, if somebody wants to connect with you, learn more about your practice, what do you want to tell everybody?
Sure. So, we've been fortunate to pair up with some out-of-state attorneys. So we've done stuff in North Carolina, and I actually just finished up a case in New York on a violation of the TCPA. So I mean, we do actually have a veterans disability practice it's up in New York. So we're a national group, but we do mostly South Carolina stuff.
Okay.
If you're looking for help in South Carolina, we are a good resource. We provide litigation support. A lot of times, solo attorneys will hire us to come and help try the case with them. So that's the type of practice we want to build on. We don't do a whole lot of advertising, so it's always referrals. But if you ever need any help or want to bounce anything off from this state, give me a holler. BluesteinAttorneys.com. Clarke with an E at BluesteinAttorneys.com is the email. I'd love to talk to you guys. Anybody that wants to bounce trial ideas, that's like my favorite thing in the world. So I'd love to just shoot the shit about that if I can. So, yeah.
Good stuff. Well, listen,
Awesome.
thanks again for spending time with us. This is Clarke Newton,
Yeah.
Bluestein Attorneys in South Carolina. And this is sponsored by EmotionTrac, which is a legal tech platform, and we help trial attorneys glean insights using our emotional analytics platform used for mediation and trials. Excellent. Thanks a lot, Clarke.
Hey, thank you. Take care.
Bye.
All right.